Hi, and welcome to Simply Happy Conversations. I'm Narelle King, and in today's solo episode, I'll be sharing tips around storage ideas for your laundry around tricky items like brooms, mops, and vacuum cleaners. I'll also be sharing laundry systems to reduce the washing overwhelm and keep clothes moving through each step of the process. And finally, I'll share some tips around lost socks and how to reduce this. Let's jump into this Simply Happy conversation. Welcome to Simply Happy Conversations. I'm Narelle King, wellness and organisational coach and Yin and Nidra yoga instructor. This podcast will help you create more time using organisational strategies so that you can start to simplify your life and prioritise your health. I'll be sharing conversations with other health and organisational experts and solo episodes with tips to help you simplify your life and prioritise your health. Thanks for joining me for today's solo episode, all around laundry storage and laundry systems to help reduce the overwhelm of washing. So we'll look at areas and how we store the things in our laundry, as well as then look at systems we can use to help us move through our washing and just ideas that maybe you haven't thought of before and you might like to try. Things that we need storing in our laundry, there are some things that are easier to store, like our washing powders, our really small items that can go underneath maybe a sink or in a basket on top of the bench. But it's things like mops and brooms and vacuums that are like a trip hazard, require a little bit more thought around how we're going to store them. Also, depending on the vacuum, they can take up a lot of space unless they're ones that are like a stick vacuum that can be maybe mounted on the wall. Something to consider is thinking about hooks that we could use. So sometimes our broom and our mop might have a little hole through the top, and if we've got a hook there that's easily mounted, we can then place the actual mop or the broom through that little hole, and it's then less likely to be slipping off the wall and then causing that trip hazard. And you can then place them at a higher level to give you access to the ground. So maybe you can have something stored on the ground and using that vertical space for your brooms and mops. The next thing would be thinking about wall-mounted organisers. It could be like a strip that you can get from your local hardware store that you can easily put your broom handle and it clips on. The one that I actually have has got, you can clip your broom and your mop handle, but then it also has some little hooks, and I've got like a duster hooked on to one of them. I also have an umbrella on another one in that cupboard as well. The other thing is you can actually buy ones now that are not needing to be screwed in, that can be placed on and you can actually remove them. So it's great if you've got a rental and you can't actually drill into the wall. And these are really effective. I've used them with clients. I've also used them myself, and I found them really sturdy and able to hold a broom or a mop, and they're not falling off the wall. As long as you make sure that you've cleaned the wall before you actually place it on and placing it at the right height for yourself. And again, like I said before, you can then have underneath, maybe it's the mop bucket or other items on the ground level, but then you've got using that vertical space, which a lot of us leave and don't use it very well. These wall-mounted organisers can also be inside door cupboards. And for myself, in our laundry, we actually have it inside on the actual cupboard door, and then it closes in, so you can make most of the back section of the cupboard, which has our ironing board, and then on the doors is the wall-mounted organiser as well. The next thing to think about is like a cupboard that you can actually designate to putting those things in, which, like I've said, the mop, the broom, and then all in the same area. I go to clients' homes all the time and I have to ask, where's the mop, where's the broom, when I'm maybe moving some cupboards and I need to clean underneath before we move something else into that spot. And I'll be asking where their mop and vacuum or their broom is, or their dustpan and brush. And the answer is usually, I'm not quite sure. And they'll be hunting around the house. If we can designate one area to be able to keep these, it's going to make it so much easier for you to actually go and get it when you need it. Also, I think it's great because kids are able to then build that independence and able to go and get it if they know where it is. If they don't know where it is, they're not going to use it. They're less likely to use it. Thinking about one area that maybe you can place all of those items. And like I said before, maybe making use of the actual door itself. Maybe it could even be on the back of your door in your laundry space. The next thing that you could consider using for storage of mops and brooms is a sturdy bin. So a big tall bin that you can then place the handles into, and that way you don't have to install hooks or wall-mounted organizers, but the bin needs to be heavy duty so that it can hold those items and it's not going to fall over on you when they're leaning onto the side. It needs to be narrow enough maybe to tuck neatly out of the way, but also it needs to be high enough so that it's not going to topple over. But I have seen some great uses of rubbish bins, rectangle rubbish bins for the use of this in even a garage area as well as in a laundry space. The next thing is think about simplifying your collection. Maybe you've got 4 mops, and is it possible that you could actually get it down to 2 mops that you need? I understand some people have a mop for their tiles and a different mop for their floorboards. And thinking about if we've got extra ones, is there a way that we can actually simplify that? The same with maybe the broom. Or maybe the broom, there might be an inside broom and an outside broom, and maybe the outside broom could be living in a different spot outside of the home just to give you that space if you're lacking space in the laundry area. Another thing is to think about is your vacuum. I find that people have broken vacuums in their home. A lot of it's because they're not sure what to do with it, and then they've replaced it with another vacuum. There's great recycle places that you can take your vacuum, and making sure that you go through the pieces and take all the vacuum pieces with you as well. And then look at how you can store the vacuum pieces that go with the vacuum that you're keeping. Another idea that you could use to actually hold your broom handles, mops, even maybe the vacuum ends, is a tension rod. And these can be installed inside a closet door. Maybe it's even a pantry door. These can be at different heights and create like that necessary structure and support for the handles of those brooms or mops. Another idea to think about, the ones that you use on a regular basis. If you're like a butterfly style organizer and visually need to be able to see it, then maybe you need to place that in an area. And I've seen that in clients' homes. It's in their kitchen area, maybe tucked down beside their fridge, but it's really easy to access. Or maybe it's inside your cupboard underneath your sink is where you've got the dustpan. So it's really easy, and that's where maybe you use it on a regular basis. Whereas some of us don't like to maybe see all of those items, and we can actually go in and open a door and create that home. Like I said before, you could look at a cupboard area or inside on the cupboard door. Let's look at laundry systems that are going to help reduce the overwhelm of washing. I'm going to share 3 different systems that I've used with clients in the past. So number 1 is to make use of different kinds of baskets. I recommend using tall baskets for dirty washing, small baskets for clean washing. And this means that you can immediately identify what's needing to be washed and what's not without having to do the sniff test. And if you have a lack of space, you can even look at folding down washing baskets, the ones that collapse, and then you can pull them out when you need them as well and tuck them away in a side of a cupboard or on the side of a wall. Or even I've done with a client, we have hers because it was a bathroom and laundry all in one. We had it in her shower on some hooks, and it was a collapsible basket, and that was a great space saving idea. So the second idea that you could use for your washing system is to allocate a separate basket for each family member. When it comes to like folding and putting away the washing, you could then put that into the separate baskets. I've done this with so many different families, and it's worked really well. It's one of the ones that works amazingly well. It means that they don't have to put it away. It may be just that they actually sort it into the person once it's clean. The family member whose items of clothing are in that basket, take it away and fold it themselves. It also just means that you've now allocated that washing into that person's basket. And if you haven't had time to put it all away, they're not going through the whole washing pile, if it's kids in particular, and making a mess of it. They're just going through their own basket, finding what it is that they need. It just saves so much time by allocating it into the baskets and then being able to move it down into their room when they're ready or at a set designated time and putting it away when it's going to suit. One of my favorite was we used a cube unit and we didn't put the middle section in it. And so there was 4 layers and we used baskets on each one. And that meant that we were also using the vertical space. Another system that I also use is labels. And it's been a little laminated little card that was a certain color and it said dirty. And the next basket had need to fold. And the third one was like need to put away. And this can help simplify the laundry process even further when they're attached to the individual baskets. And over time, you may not need these, but this is a great hack for implementing a new laundry system to your family. The other thing that I found when I use some of these laundry systems, if there's other people who are supporting the family in this area, maybe it's a support worker, this really helps to simplify the system and help them to actually know what's going on, which are dirty, which are clean, which need folding and putting away. So the last thing I wanted to share was around socks. There is always missing socks in the wash. I don't know what happens and why they go missing, but there's a few hacks that you could try. One I have implemented and is working really well is I've bought 2 of those peg holders, and when we put the socks out, we try to pair the socks up as they come out of the wash. That's making sure that the washing, all the socks are going in that one washing as they come out. I try to do my washing on a regular basis, like daily, so I can stay on top of it. I used to, when the kids were younger, do only say twice a week. Now I do the washing every day, so it's a lot easier to pair the socks up as they come out of the actual washing machine. And if there is those lost socks, is designating a little box and then having a time period where you might go, okay, there is those lost socks. Nobody's owned up to it. Maybe having a check in everyone's wardrobe, and then they get thrown out and we start a new lost sock basket. Another idea I have heard, I haven't used it myself, is to just keep putting those socks back through the washing machine until they eventually find their pair. Another idea that might work for your family. Now, the final thing I wanted to talk about was around the washing process and when you might do your washing. So there's a few ideas, is like doing 1 load a day and keeping on top of it that way. Maybe that's not going to work for you and it might be a designated days or every second day that you're doing it. Another thing I found really useful is designating a day that I wash my towels. So that is like a Friday, and every Friday everyone brings their towels down and they're washed on that day. The other thing I found really useful is the same for bedding. So I will allocate that on a weekend. It gives me a little bit more time and I don't feel so much pressure trying to get them dry because I can spread them out and hang them outside, or whether it's on clothes horses over the weekend. Obviously, when the kids were a lot younger and there were wedding beds, my washing cycle was not as regular and on the set days, especially for bedding, apart from our own bedding. Whereas now that that's not a problem, I know that we can now stick with this sort of routine and it works really well. I know that this has helped my kids. They now know when they need to bring down their washing, and they're becoming a little bit more independent around at least bringing it down and helping with the actual sorting, some of the folding as well. So I hope by sharing a few things around storage ideas for your laundry, as well as some laundry systems, that you're not going to feel so overwhelmed, and it's going to help reduce the clutter that builds up in your laundry. Thanks for joining me for Simply Happy Conversations. Thank you so much for joining me for today's Simply Happy Conversation. If you find yourself wasting precious time searching for misplaced items and wishing for a more organized life, then you need my 5-minute declutter ebook, the ultimate guide to quick and easy organizing solutions for a clutter-free and happy home. Forget about spending months KonMariing your house. These fun solutions are designed to give you immediate results in under 5 minutes. Head over to Simply Happy in the resource section and download your free copy and start seeing results in minutes. I'd like to acknowledge the Wathaurong people of the Kulin Nation on which this podcast is recorded as the traditional custodians of the land. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging.